Hey everyone, I'm Brian Parks, and in this video I want to talk about why creating a custom version of your software is a bad idea. And this is not just a diatribe from me on too much work or anything like that. No, there are legitimate reasons why you shouldn't create a custom version of your app. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have you know some number of customers all using version 3 of your app. But then one customer comes to you and says, we like what your app does, but we want it to also do this other thing. Can you create a custom version for us? Um, or, maybe the conversation goes a little more like, well, that doesn't really fit into our product vision. And then they counter with, can you create a custom version for us? Obviously, there's definite pressure from the sales perspective to want to land that sale and add that functionality in, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You definitely it's okay to add that functionality in to uh, potentially to land that customer. Obviously there's a little more discussion that needs to be done. You don't want to stretch yourself too thin. You want to make sure you have a cohesive product roadmap and cohesive vision. That's a topic for another video. But what I'm specifically talking about is basically making a fork of your product so that you build additional features specifically for one customer without also bringing them back into your mainline code. What I'm also not talking about is patch releases or point releases, right? So if you have version 3.0, it's okay to make a 3.1 while you're also working on 4.0, right? The assumption there is that 4.0 has additional features. You don't want to take your 4.0 stuff, potentially incomplete, and pull it into 3.1 and release something that might be more buggy than the 3.0 release that people are currently using. But you also want to make sure that anything you do for 3.1 also makes it back into 4.0 because you don't want to have those bugs pop up again. So that's another topic. Definitely, kind of branching strategy, product numbering strategy that I can go into another video. But in this video, I'm specifically talking about the idea of forking your mainline code and having a custom version for one customer. And obviously, you can see that this problem compounds itself if you start doing that for one customer and then another customer and then another customer. Bad things start to happen. Instead of having a mainline version of code and another version of code, you end up with however many versions of code. And I think in that situation, it's pretty obvious to see that you run into the issue of if you create a feature or fix a bug in one customer's branch or copy of the code, how do you sustainably bring that back into the others if it does become useful for someone else's? Now, version control systems, especially like Git, do a really good job of merging, but no version control system does a great job of what I'll call partial merging. So it's very difficult to say, take a feature that's built on top of feature on top of feature on top of feature in one branch and take just that last piece and move it over to another branch that doesn't have all that other stuff. It can be done, and maybe if your code is organized in exactly the right way, you can get away with it because you're only changing files on both sides that happen to be the same. But you're really hoping that luck is on your side, and that's not a great place to be. So from the engineering perspective, there are a ton of challenges to doing that. It's much better to have one mainline version of code and be able to toggle or configure features on or off. This has actually kind of become a movement now. There's a concept called trunk-based development, which is basically even during normal development, you don't have branches. Everyone is working on trunk. Occasionally, you might have a branch to prove out a concept or do a spike or something like that. but by and large, everybody is working off of master or main or trunk, whatever you call your main branch. Now, of course, it's not just engineering that is affected by this. It's also support. So whoever is doing your support, and in smaller companies, this might be the same group. In larger companies, there might be a specific support team that's responsible for that. It's very difficult to train or even context switch between the baseline functionality of your software and the specific functionality that's been added for a particular customer, even with the most extensive documentation you can imagine. And basically what this ends up being is that you end up supporting basically two separate products. And especially the longer that these branches stay out there, the more it feels like you're supporting two very different products because you basically have two different sets of functionality. And it can even get harder because you have to remember where the differences lie, right? It would be much easier to remember to think between Word and PowerPoint because they are two very different products, right? Someone says I'm using Word, someone says I'm using PowerPoint, you immediately have some frame of reference. But if someone says I'm using version 3.0 of your software versus I'm using 3.0 but the custom version you made for me, okay, what does that mean? I need to remember what that actually correlates to and kind of figure out, okay, what works the same, what works differently. That's a bad place to be. That doesn't make for a good situation for your support staff. That doesn't make for a good experience for the customer either. Even though the customer might be asking for a custom version and they think that's what they really want, down the line, it's only going to create more trouble for both you and them. So my recommendation to get around that is, even if you have to say, if salespeople have to say to the customer, yes, you'll have a custom version, make sure that whatever you do for that customer makes it back into your mainline code as quickly as possible. Even if you have to ship a branch, let's say you're using Git, if you have to ship a custom branch just to meet a deadline, okay, fine. That still kind of makes me cringe, but that's okay. But make sure that branch is getting back into main, master, trunk as soon as possible, with the appropriate configuration options, feature flags, whatever, so that as an entire company, as a group, you are still only supporting one product, one mainline code base, one product, and it also provides an upgrade path to them. So if they go to 3.0 custom version, they can always upgrade to 4.0 and 5.0 and still have the functionality that they were looking for. They might have to toggle a feature flag on, which you can help them through, but they will still have access to everything they expected. And you won't go through any extra headache. It fits into your testing pipeline. It fits into your unit tests, your security scanning, whatever parts of your software development lifecycle that you have, it already fits into all that pattern. You don't have to duplicate it for one specific customer. So hopefully that was helpful. If you liked this video, go ahead and click that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. Most weeks I do one video like this and a video that's a little more technically oriented. In this case, this week's video was on loading DLLs at runtime outside of your C# project. So that one was kind of fun. Kind of long, kind of nuanced, but kind of fun. So go ahead and check that one out. I'll leave a link down in the description below. And I've got a bunch of other videos, both like this and more technical, so feel free to check those out. And subscribe and click that notification bell so you can be notified when other videos get released. Share this with your friends, colleagues. If someone's trying to get you to make a custom version, go ahead and share this video with them. Hopefully it will be helpful, and hopefully it won't cause any additional consternation. But I think there's definitely good reasons not to make custom versions, but definitely workarounds that are workable, that you can achieve the same business objectives without making a custom version of your code. And with that, I'm going to stop talking. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.